They say, the higher the hair, the closer to God. Hi everyone, my name is Charlie, and it has been 3 weeks since my last confession. And there is a really fantastic reason for that. Something so immense and fulfilling. Depression. I will joke in this video about some of the darkest things, and if you aren't here for it, well, I have over 500 more videos that you can go and view, so don't be coming for me. Anyway, so there I was. I'd done my weekly reading vlog, as you might have seen, and I've started to read The Girl Who Wrote Loneliness by Kyung-Sook Shin. Fantastic book, recommend it. But as I was reading this book, I really slowed down the pace of my reading, which I didn't understand because I had quite a few books still on my reading list. They're still over here, that I wanted to get through. I knew that the BookTube prize was going to be getting announced at the end of the month. I wanted to record a video for that, but I had no energy, and I recorded a clip on the Monday, and that was it. I got to the Friday and I thought, no, I can't be doing this. And I went downstairs, and I wasn't going to be reading that day. I knew that, and I knew I really couldn't settle to anything. And so I thought, I am going to watch something on my computer. It was very early in the morning, and so I ended up watching Good Omens with David Tennant and is it Michael Sheen? I don't know names. You should be impressed that I even knew David Tennant. And so I watched the entire series in a day. Just sat on my computer, watched it, didn't really stop for anything. But, yeah, so I watched that. It's a miss for me, really enjoying it, but the final 2 episodes just felt too anticlimactic for my tastes. So we get to the Saturday and the Sunday and we move on. So then I decided, you know what? I'm going to finish watching Sabrina. You know, the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina that I started nearly 2 years ago. So I watch all of that over 3 days. And then I move on to Stranger Things. And I watch all of that over the next 2 days. And then I decide, you know what? I haven't properly horrified myself enough. And what I was trying to do here, because I'm calling this depression, but I haven't been properly diagnosed. I'd say it's more like a high-functioning depression, if that's the sort of thing. Like, I can still go about the day, but I am also feeling as though this planet is just terrible. I don't know what I'm doing here. Can I move to a different one, please? Like, I was clearly assigned the wrong role. I was sent to the wrong place. This is terrible. Find me a reset button. Let's just do this over. But then the problem with the reset button is then everyone has to learn everything again, and the whole thing is that people actually never learn because too many people are power hungry. And let's not get into that now. I'm watching horror films in the hopes of trying to actually feel something. And so I watched It. I have avoided watching It for 3 years, whenever that came out. And I watched it. And do you want to know something? It didn't scare me. In fact, the people in that film were more horrifying than the actual monster. And that was the worst thing for me then, because if you want to know, I've just ruined the horror genre for myself, because the only thing I like to read in horror are the supernatural horrors. That's it. I like the ones that are more like an urban fantasy. I can try the ones which are like domestic and they're to do with serial killers and things, but that's not my bag. I go to thrillers for that. I've ruined the horror genre for myself because I realise that whatever I'm going to read in horror fiction, whilst it might be scary, it's no worse than people. People are horrible, and the last 2 weeks has revealed to me, has emphasised, 3 weeks actually, the last 3 weeks have emphasised for me that people are terrible. Don't worry about me sat there watching all these films, because even a Charlie who has decided that he's going to watch films still ends up feeling guilty. That's great. I live my life feeling guilty. It's fantastic. Everyone goes to me, I don't know what you're worried about, I don't know why you feel so guilty. I was like, I don't know either. I put this pressure on myself because nobody else is going to. I ended up going back to the children's book because I don't want to be funny. That's strange, but it actually seems fitting. I didn't want to be funny. I was struggling to find the humour within myself to write the final Doris book. And do you know something? The children's book's been waiting for me to get it finished for the last 3 years, and I actually started that in 2013 before deciding to rewrite it in 2017. So 7 years nearly I have been working on this children's book. I just kept writing it. So I now have another 2 chapters written, and you might be thinking, Charlie, 2 chapters isn't a lot. But if you know me, you know that I also like to edit as I go along. And my plans change as I go along. There is an aspect of this book that I chose to change. I'm not really sure I want to say what that is at the moment until I finish the book. And maybe you're all, hopefully I'm able to get it traditionally published and people get the opportunity to read it. But I changed something. And then when I changed it, I realised that this change that I had made to a certain character would then end up, sadly, feeding into harmful tropes. So I ended up deciding to change a twist that I have had in there since 2013. That's changed the entire trajectory of what I'd planned as a 5-book series. But as soon as I did it, it just made sense. And I didn't think of it sooner. So that was me. And that was one of the better things that came from this major... I can't call it a major depressive episode because we had one of those in 2016 that ultimately saw me stop writing, stop reading, and gaining weight. So I can't really say that this was one of those times, but it's only slowly disappearing. I can definitely tell that it hasn't completely gone, simply because of the fact that sleep is eluding me. I am due to start back at work next Monday, under new conditions, of course. Masks, gloves, aprons. We're not starting on the Monday. We're going back in on the Monday, and we're going to be meeting with the volunteers and organising fresh rotas. I have been incredibly excited to see all of my volunteers and the people I work with, because believe it or not, I actually think they're pretty amazing folk. It's the whole reason I stay there. I stay in my job, not earning a lot of money, not being able to move out of my parents' house because I like the people. And that's me. That's the type of person I am. And I was really excited to be going back and seeing all these people. It's like, yeah, I've had 12 weeks. 12 weeks is what the Asthma Society said to take because of the inhaler that I'm on. And I can do next Monday. It's fine. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing you all. And then I've just been getting updates. But I don't mind. I've been living my best life over here. I've been creating more, whether it's been videos. I have been reading more. I feel like I've been more involved in a lot of things since this started. But that's also my own fault, because if we go back to, I know I'm diverting off topics, if we go back to me saying before about how I end up feeling loads of guilt about not getting stuff done, I also have this strange feeling inside me where I feel as though I can help solve problems, or I can help ease things for people. And so when lockdown began on the 23rd of March, I immediately thought, right, I need to get Our Doris, the entirety of my novel, recorded so that people would have something to listen to that would be something light to alleviate any sense of stress that they might be having. Even though my book might not be that, even though people might not like my book, it's still there for them to listen to. I was creating videos every single day. My family was saying to me, why are you doing this? There's no obligation. Nobody's expecting you to increase your upload schedule. But to me, I was thinking, well, people need something to take their mind off things. And so you can go back and watch them. I was searching for tag videos and doing Woolgathering, setting up a schedule and doing 5 days a week and taking the weekend off. And it was incredibly difficult. I got no writing done. My reading was going down the pan because I was just spending days at my computer editing. And so, to be fair, it's been a strange one. These last 12 weeks have been incredibly strange. And I suppose that me being here today is also a wrap-up of the last 12 weeks. This is the final lockdown diary before I go back to work, you could say. Unless, of course, everything goes tits up again and I end up told, no, you can't come back to work, Charlie. We're sorry, we're sacking you. Goodbye, thank you for 12 years, but we've had enough. We've had enough of you constantly undermining us. We've had enough of you making your own rules. We're sorry about it, Charlie. We understand. We understand you volunteered. We get it. But goodbye. Yeah, and I also have conversations like that with myself in my head all the time because, yeah, that's who I am. I've gone that far off topic now. I can't actually remember where I was. I felt this obligation to create more videos, and it's just, I always feel as though I have a responsibility to try and make everything better. Is that a messiah complex? I used to call myself a narcissist, and I used to call myself incredibly arrogant, and maybe that's the truth. Maybe it's never gone away, but I've just pushed it down. My friend tells me off for psychoanalyzing myself all the time, especially considering I have absolutely no degree in psychology. I couldn't take the class because I didn't have a high enough maths score, which made no sense to me. I didn't understand why I needed maths to understand psychology. And then I had to take sociology. And if you didn't know this about me, when I was younger, I used to be ill a lot, which you can actually attribute to the amazing sense of anxiety that I felt about just leaving the house. We're getting so into mental health today. Isn't this fantastic? Isn't this why you stick around for my channel? Books, mental health, and tea, which is going cold whilst I speak to you. Give me 2 minutes to finish it. So, yes, I used to be ill a lot as a child, which was because anxious. And I missed a lot of school. It reached a point where they even said to me, why don't we just stop you from coming in the morning? If that's your problem, why don't you just show up for the afternoon? You know, they just wanted me to actually be there, because I would take, like, if I took one day off, I was taking a week off, because I just couldn't bear the idea of people asking me the question, why weren't you here yesterday? So I had to take sociology. You had to take 4 classes in your first year of AS level. And this is me admitting to not being the best student in the world now. But I think everyone who went to school with me knows I wasn't the best student. I apologise, but I'm really not sorry. It's been 10 years. Get over yourselves. When I released Our Doris, a friend of mine, I mean, I don't know whether we're friends anymore. We're not friends on Facebook, and I haven't seen her in about 6 years. And even then, it was just her telling me that she was buying eye heels. But, and it's a big but, she put online, when the newspaper article about me appeared, that she used to skive off classes with me. I thought, that's a lie. We only ever used to skive off PE, and I can only remember doing it once or twice. And then I remembered something. Sociology. Soci-bloody-ology. That is a class that I hated so much that I'd completely blanked it from my mind. That is a class where I was once walking into school and someone pointed, because we used to have 3, was the main school, the high school, then a separate place for the 6th form, then the college. We used to meet up in the 6th form block every morning, and I was walking across there, and somebody from the class said, you're not going that way today, you're this way. So I followed him, and I found that I'd actually got a sociology exam that morning. Would it surprise you to know that I failed that exam? I got a U. And so then we had this parents' evening, which I never flaming understood, because I was 16. I was like, my parents, I've never had any care about my education. I'm not being funny, it's just who they are. No responsibility about anything in my life. Basically, there's 5 of us, and we raised ourselves. Not gonna lie, love my parents, but they're useless. So this parents' evening comes along, and I have to go and speak to my sociology tutors, and I have 2 of them. And the first one, who I still know now, who actually showed up to the launch of one of my books. She's been to the events where I've read poetry before. She told me on this day that she thought I ought to drop out of 6th form and come back the following year. And the other tutor, who also taught me for English, said no, she believed that I had it in me to turn things around, because this tutor also taught me in an English class. And this tutor knew I'd actually done okay. On all of my other exams, I just hated sociology that much. Absolutely despised it. I cannot remember one single thing from that class apart from the term underclass. I remember turning up after I'd failed my exam, having to do extra revision sessions after school, and getting everything wrong because I didn't care. And if I don't care about something, and this goes the same for me and most of my siblings, if we don't care about something, we aren't going to give it any effort at all. This could be the same for the 7 billion people on the planet. If we don't care, we're not putting our time towards it. So I didn't care about sociology. Same as I didn't care about science at school. I used to get something I call my physics headache. And this is going to lead into a book. You're going to be so happy about the way I do this. So we used to have triple science on a Friday. Now, we had biology. If you didn't know, I actually ended up doing okay in biology, so well in biology, in fact, that when they gave me my final grade, it managed to raise up my final science grade, which had been quite low. It had been quite low because chemistry, I thought I was doing well in. Turned out I only like the teacher. I had no concept of what we were talking about, but I got on with the teacher. I thought everyone got on with the teacher, actually. It was very humorous. And then we had physics. And I kid you not, I never listened in physics. I got into that class and I zoned out. I doodled and I couldn't listen because anything that was told to me about physics, in me trying to understand it, I'd get a headache. And I wasn't bothering when I had a headache. So I gave up on that. I never tried science again. And it's strange because, as I mentioned a few months ago, popular science ended up becoming a genre of mine that I loved about 2 years after all these classes ended, and I was reading up on space and physics came in that, and I was able to understand it a bit more. So maybe it was the teacher. I don't know. Liked him as a person, but just the teaching. I just didn't get physics. I'm sorry about it. Anyway, I'm mentioning my physics headache because I just read The Old Drift by Namwali, Serpell, and guess what? This book gave me my physics headache again. Now, this is a multi-generational family saga set in Zambia by the Zambezi River after it's been colonised. We begin with the man who has chosen to build a dam there, who is making slaves of the black people there. And then we move like about 50 years into the future and we go to Italy, and from Italy, from England, and from, I think we're in Zambia as well for the final family, we stay in Zambia, in this area near the Zambezi River. And we follow a different person from each generation. So we have the grandmothers, the mothers, and then the children. This is the first time that I've actually had to go back and read the family tree because I kept getting confused as to who people were. This is a hugely interweaving, intertextual narrative. It's incredibly smart, but at the same time, I felt like I was held at arm's length. I really adored the language. Someone, I think it was Matthew of MCS Books, saw that I was going to read this at the same time as Cloud Atlas, and he said that it's strange because both of those books are quite similar in style, and I now understand what he meant because each chapter follows a different character, and it's also like a short story about their life, and it'll follow them throughout their life, and then we'll go back and then we'll see another person's life, then we'll go back, and throughout this we have this interweaving of stories. So sometimes characters will pop up in other characters' stories, and I like that. Also, we had fairy tales, we had fables, we had love stories, we had sci-fi in here, and I love that. But I think I'm gonna have to reread it to make any flaming sense of it. It took me a week to read this. And yes, I admit that there's been more of a struggle being able to get into books because of current conditions, but I really loved the language, but I did find it somewhat confusing and lost track of characters at times. I think it's a book you have to read more than once to properly understand everything that the author was trying to do, but I could also see with that it becoming a new favourite of mine. And from there, I moved on, and this book I discovered a few months ago. And I discovered it when I was watching Series 2, Episode 1 of Dinner Ladies, in which there is a character named Paul. I know the careers of most people after Dinner Ladies. Even the guy who plays Derwin in that episode is now in Emmerdale, so I know what happened to him. I wondered just what happened to decorator Paul. And I looked him up, I found his name, and I found out he had a book coming out called Forced Out. It's by Kevin Maxwell, and it's his story of being a detective and the homophobia and racism that he faced in the police force whilst being forced out after 11 years of work. I am only 2 chapters in so far, and I am already shocked to see some of the microaggressions, and I'm finally beginning to gain more of a sense of what microaggressions mean and the way that people will exert authority over others and make them feel as though they're the problem. I felt something of the kinship with Kevin Maxwell, not because of his story of the racism he faced. I will never be able to understand that. But this story of being somewhat working class. So far, it's not just being forced out as being forced out to be gay or forced out because of being black. So far, he's being forced out of his home because the Liverpool council decided to demolish his home because there were people began to associate violence with the place that he lived. So they knocked down the houses where he lived and decided to move his family on. The whole reason I live in this house now is because they decided to demolish the block of flats that I lived in as a child. Shall we go really far back again to 3 weeks ago and actually discuss my opinions on The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina? Liked series 1, series 2 started to go downhill, series 3 was just I was going to swear, I don't want to swear, but it was a clusterfuck. I have absolutely no idea what was going through the writers' heads. They were just throwing things at you, and the final episode of that was a load of tripe, in my opinion. But will I continue to watch the series? Yes, because there's horror and there's magic and there's Satanism. And then we move on to Stranger Things, which I watched and I liked the characters and I liked the setting, but I just feel like it's the same plot every single year. And in terms of it, that film had no need to be as long as it was, and I don't understand why there's a part 2. But the cinematography was great. As you know, I'm now working on the children's book again and hoping to finish that, and I want to be submitting that by the end of the year. You now know that I am going to be back at work next Monday. I considered taking off until the 21st of June, because on the 21st of June, it will be 5 years since I released Our Doris, and I wanted to commemorate that in some way. The same way I wanted to commemorate something for my 28th birthday that's coming up in a near month. And I wanted to commemorate 5 years on YouTube as well. But I wanted to take time away because I wasn't feeling my best. And I tried to talk about these things on Sunday. I tried to talk about everything in this video before now. But I think I was still too entrenched in sadness to actually properly be able to do that in a way that I didn't feel like I was dragging people down, especially at a time when people really don't need to be hearing about another sad white boy. Something that has happened more over the last 3 weeks is taking walks with my sister. So when last we spoke, I think we've done the Shining tour, we've done Goit Valley, we've done a few more walks around Macclesfield Forest, which is always great. And then we had this walk up Goit Valley again with my younger brother, and we took 7 dogs with us. One of these dogs doesn't particularly like me, she just wants to be part of the pack with my brother. And another, it's strange dogs that don't know you, obviously, even if you're with their owners, just don't want to know you. And so I was trying to walk his dog, but she just wanted to be with him. And eventually we just called the walk to end. He was complaining it was too hot, the dogs were getting antsy, so we left. Yesterday, my sister decided to take us both to Lud Church, me, her and Floss, the border collie. You've seen him before. Lud's Church is in Staffordshire. She's wanted to go there for ages because of how eerie it is, and I will include a few clips towards the end of this video. We get to the car park and we're in the car park and that's full, but then we get told how we can park, so we set off, start walking. My sister was told it was only a half-hour walk. We came to a river. We had to, well, I wouldn't call it, well, it was the River Dane, but I'd say what we crossed was more of a stream. And there were these stepping stones across it, but these stepping stones were slippery and my hip wasn't climbing onto one of them, so I just ended up wading through the water getting wet feet. But we keep on walking and eventually we came to Lud's Church. And I thought I was going to an actual type of church place. I wasn't. It was steep. I finally understood what scrambling meant. These hips are hypermobile. If my hips hadn't been hypermobile, I don't think I could have got up and down some of the huge stone steps that were there. And then we walked around this bit for a while and then we walked back. And my sister saw this little narrow passage and decided that is where she wanted to go up. I don't think I'm small enough for this passage, but this passage was steep as well. There were incredibly small stone steps we had to climb up. I was pulling myself up with tree trunks to get through this hole. I felt like I'd had a full body workout by the time I just squeezed through this whole thing by having to grab a flaming tree branch up here that was sticking. No, I had to grab a root out of the ground here and something else here and lift myself out of this hole. Luckily, this is all experience I can add to the children's book, but oh, goodness gracious. I got home and I don't sleep during the day. Even when I'm ill, I don't sleep during the day. I had a bit of a cat nap yesterday, though I did, and then I woken up and every bone in my body is mad at me today. But that just comes with the territory of having bones that don't particularly like to do what they should do. Hopefully, I am going to have more videos for you this week. I have recorded a May wrap-up. However, I don't know whether that will make it online. I don't know whether I can find the wherewithal within me to upload that video here. I'm not sorry this video has gone on for so long because I've had 3 weeks of stuff to talk about and I don't think I even scratched the surface of anything. I always think about making these videos short and punchy and it never happens. Either way, I hope you're doing well. What have you been reading? What have you been writing? What have you been watching? What have you been listening to? Just remembered, I also wanted to talk about Janelle Monáe's Dirty Computer, which I've never seen before, but it came up recommended when I was listening to VV Brown the other day, and I am so sorry that I've been missing out on that and I haven't recommended it before, because that was great. That was fantastic. That's all I've got to say on that matter. I hope that you got something out of this video besides sheer boredom, and until next time, that just might be all.